Hi, this is Seth David from the world famous Nerd Enterprises Incorporated, bringing to you another special screencast. This time we're talking about understanding the profit and loss statement. We're going to take a deep look at what this looks like and how it all comes together in QuickBooks. Knowledge is power. Make an impact by learning more. Call me right now at 866-945-8070 for information about private trainings. We record the live session so you can review it as often as you like afterwards. So here's a sample profit and loss statement from a sample company file. I'm looking at a retail business, and the reason I'm choosing retail is because retail businesses tend to have the most involved profit and loss statements. They include sort of all of the major sections. The most involved profit and loss statement is actually going to include even a couple of things you don't see here. But essentially, you're going to start with this. You're going to have your sales, you're going to have your cost of goods sold, which brings you to your gross profits, the difference, of course, between sales and cost of goods sold. Then below that, you're going to have your expenses, which is often referred to as your overhead. And of course, we take the difference between gross profit and total expense to come up with our ordinary income. And then we have other income and expenses, which you don't see here, to arrive at our final net income number. And the profit and loss is pretty much that simple. I mean, we start off in the most simple way by explaining it as income minus expenses to come up with our net income. How much money did we make this year? But then we can take a little deeper look, and this gets broken down into further categories. Now, some of the other things that you don't see here, which I listed on the blog post, and I'll bring up my Word document here with the outline I wrote, is we might have sales returns and allowances. Now, what is that? That's going to go up here as what's called a Contra income account. Contra means it goes against. It goes against income. So it's usually going to be a negative number that shows up in the income section because they're just that. They're returns and allowances. We might have given discounts. We might have had coupon sales that you might have show up in that part of the profit and loss. Things like that which go directly against income before we want to factor in the cost of goods sold. On the cost of goods sold side, we have what's called purchase returns and allowances, which is the equivalent of sales returns and allowances, but now on the other side, on the purchasing side. When I go to buy products from my vendors, and they give me discounts or allowances, then I'm going to record that as a reduction to cost of goods sold. So it's a contra cost of goods sold account. Now, cost of goods sold looks and works and functions a lot like an expense account, but really it's a special type of income account. In fact, what sort of serves as evidence of that is if you ever try and customize a report in QuickBooks, and in that report's customization filters, you're trying to show all income accounts, cost of goods sold will show up. Cost of goods sold is a special type of income account. So important to understand, but it works like an expense. Cost of goods sold are increased by debits, right? Income is increased by credits. So cost of goods sold works like an expense account. Now, let's take a look at how to build this. When you're looking in an actual QuickBooks file, not that that's not an actual one, but let's go to a blank one. I call this Profit Maker Incorporated. How do we build the profit and loss? First of all, when you're setting up your company file, I strongly recommend that you use a standard chart of accounts based on whatever most closely resembles the industry that your business is in. And that will at least get you started. Then once you've got that done, of course, we can't really do anything without creating a bank account. So let me do that. I've got my chart of accounts up. Let me just quickly create a sample bank account. And save and close. Now, when you're building your profit and loss accounts, you're going to start theoretically with the income accounts, let's say. And what I recommend doing, instead of, and it wants me to refresh this report, instead of just going right into the chart of accounts to create it, what I want to demonstrate for you is that there's a relationship in terms of the profit and loss that involves your item list, which you want to think of your item list as your product list. That's really what it is. Your item list is a list of all the products that you sell or all the services that you sell. So we come over here to lists and we go to item list. And the reason is that everything that's in this item list I shouldn't say everything, but most things in this item list are going to tie into your profit and loss. But most importantly, when you're building income when you're billing for something. When you record a sale, you're going to do that usually using an invoice or a sales receipt. And when you do that, you're going to need to choose an item, and then you're going to need to link that item up to something in your profit and loss. So looking at this is a sample. I just set this up as kind of a generic accounting service. So if I go to create a new item here in my item list, then what I can do is I can set up a service item, and I want to call it item name. Let's call it accounting services. Now over here I have to link this up to an income account on the profit and loss. I can actually link it up to any kind of an account, but obviously when I'm selling accounting services, then I'd want to link it to this income account, accounting services income. Now a lot of times the relationship between the item and the account on the profit and loss is going to be linear. It's going to be 1 for 1. But I'll give you an example of where I might add something else in the item list that's linked to the same line item in the profit and loss. And that is, let me create another new item. Let's say I wanted to do forecasts and projections. That might be another item. It's almost like a product that I sell. It's a service that I sell. But I don't need a separate income account on the profit and loss to describe that. I want to keep my profit and loss simple. I don't want to have so many accounts on the profit and loss that it takes, a whole month to review it. I want to keep it nice and simple. The idea is I can describe a lot of different products on my product list or my item list, and I can link them to just a few accounts on the profit and loss. Because I can always go back and report on sales by item if I ever need to really see the detailed breakdown of what I sold and how much I sold of it. So it makes more sense to me to keep the profit and loss simple. Link many items in the item list to just a few items on the profit and loss. And now the way this works is when I go to invoice a customer, and let's do that real quick. Just quickly add a customer in here. Now that I've created those items, I bring up my item code. We'll call it accounting services. I write a description. Let's say it's $1,000. Save and close. Don't need the payment interview. Refresh my report, and there it is. Accounting services income. Now let's do another invoice, and we'll invoice for forecasts. Just using my tab key to quickly get through here. Let's say I bill $2,500 for the forecasts. Come over here to my profit and loss, refresh. Boom, see how that works. I have two different items that I recorded linked up to one item on the profit and loss. Now if I want to see the detail, I come over here to reports, sales. I can do sales by item summary or detail. But here now it shows me in the sales by item summary the breakdown of accounting services and forecasts. Even gives me percent of sales, average price. So that's the way I would like to do it. Keep the profit and loss real simple. So let's go back and look at the sample company file because it's got obviously a lot more information filled in. Look at their item list. And the item list in a sense is how you build at least the income part of your profit and loss. Now again, there may be items also linked to other accounts. If I'm taking deposits from customers, I have several videos I've done on how to handle customer deposits. So if you're in the blog, go ahead and search for customer deposits. I'm sure you'll find more than one blog post with a video on how to handle that. But that would be an example of where you'd set up an item that's actually linked to a balance sheet account, because that's not income. When I'm receiving a deposit from a customer, when they're paying me in advance, I haven't earned that money yet. So it's a liability. I have to pay that money back to them at some point or perform the service for which they've prepaid. And then once I perform the service, it comes out of the liability and then it gets applied to income. So here's an example of your item list, and look at the account. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 items here, all linked to one income account called sales service, which means service as a sub-account of sales. Then I have a whole bunch linking to sales merchandise. So I can have many items linked up to one profit and loss account. And that way your profit and loss stays nice and clean. If I go back to the profit and loss, imagine if I had a separate line item for every one of those sales items that I sell. That would make for a very big profit and loss statement. Essentially, for all of these items that you see here on the left, you would have a line item here on the P&L for each one. And it would make the statement very long and very difficult to read, frankly. The expenses, I think most of us are pretty familiar with. And like I said, if you use the standard chart of accounts for an industry or whatever closely relates to your industry when you're creating your QuickBooks file, then you're probably pretty safe. And then obviously, you're just going to create what you need as you go. And if over time you find that there are accounts on here that were created that you don't need, then simply delete them or make them inactive. And all you have to do, you can't delete an account if there's any data tied to it. But if I know, for example, that I'm not going to use any inventory on consignment, I can simply delete this by right-clicking it and choosing Delete Account. I can also make it inactive. If it's been used and I'm deciding that I don't want to use it anymore, first of all, make sure that there's no balance in it if it's a balance sheet account. You should always zero out a balance sheet account before you make it inactive. But that's what you want to do, is just make it inactive or delete it if there is no data tied to it. If there is data tied to it and you try to delete it, QuickBooks will stop you and it will tell you that you can't delete the account because there's data tied into it. And it'll give you the choice then just to make it inactive. So that's my sort of quick and brief overview of the P&L, how to create it, how to build it. As always, if you have any questions, email me, Seth@nerdenterprises.com. And don't forget to sign up for the upcoming Cash Flow Projections, Nerds Cash Flow Projections webinar coming up live on October 14th, 2011. That's a Friday. It's a workshop, a 3-hour workshop from 9 a.m. till 12 p.m. And you can sign up there. If it's past that date, go to the events section of the website, scroll down, and you'll see the icon there where you can go and download the recording. So either way, visit my website at nerdenterprises.com, go to the events section, scroll down. If it's before October 14th, 2011, sign up for the live webinar. If you sign up, you get the recording, so even if you can't make it that day, be sure and sign up. You'll get the recording to download afterwards, included in the fee. So visit me on the web, nerdenterprises.com. As always, if you have any questions, email me, Seth@nerdenterprises.com. For more great videos and blog posts, nerdenterprises.com/blog, or just visit my YouTube channel at youtube.com/nerdenterprises. I hope you're having an absolutely fantastic day, and I look forward to seeing you on the web. This has been a special presentation brought to you by Nerd Enterprises Incorporated on understanding the profit and loss statement. Knowledge is power. Make an impact by learning more. Call me right now at 866-945-8070 and I can give you additional training on how to set up your chart of accounts, create your profit and loss statement, or anything else you've seen me cover in any videos on the web. I can train you. I always record the live session with you so that afterwards you can review it as often as you like and really maximize your retention. Give me a call right now, 866-945-8070. I look forward to speaking to you and learning more about your business.